Welcome to this rigorous scientific lecture on catalytic nanomotors. These are fascinating nanoscale objects that can convert chemical energy directly into mechanical motion, and when many of them interact, they create emergent behaviors that look remarkably alive, yet arise purely from physical principles. Let's begin with the fundamentals. What exactly is a catalytic nanomotor? Catalytic nanomotors are synthetic particles, typically ranging from 50 nanometers to 10 micrometers in size. To put this in perspective, they're about 1,000th the width of a human hair. These particles have an asymmetric structure, often with one hemisphere coated with a catalytic material like platinum. When placed in a solution containing chemical fuel, they catalyze reactions asymmetrically, creating gradients that propel them forward. The most commonly studied system uses hydrogen peroxide as fuel. The platinum surface catalyzes the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. The reaction is 2H2O2 yields 2H2O plus O2. This decomposition happens preferentially on the catalytic side of the particle. Now let's understand the propulsion mechanism at the nanoscale. How does an asymmetric reaction create directed motion? Here we have a Janus particle, half platinum and half inert. The platinum side catalyzes hydrogen peroxide decomposition, creating a local concentration gradient of products. This gradient drives fluid flow and propels the particle forward. Three main sulfuretic mechanisms can drive nanomotor motion. Let me explain each one. First, self-diffusiophoresis. The products of the reaction, oxygen and water, create a concentration gradient around the particle. This gradient induces fluid slip along the particle surface, generating propulsion. Second, self-electrophoresis. In some systems, the catalytic reaction creates ionic gradients that establish local electric fields. These fields interact with the particle's surface charge to produce motion. Third, bubble propulsion. When reaction rates are high, visible oxygen bubbles nucleate and detach from the surface, providing direct thrust like a microscopic rocket. Now let me pose a question. Given that these particles are only a few micrometers in size, operating in a viscous fluid environment, how fast can they actually move? Experimental measurements show typical speeds ranging from 10 to 100 micrometers per second. This might sound slow, but let's put it in perspective. If we normalize by body length, we calculate speed in body lengths per second equals versus divided by L, where V is velocity and L is particle size. For a 2 micrometer particle moving at 50 micrometers per second, that's 25 body lengths per second. A cheetah, by comparison, achieves about 16 body lengths per second at top speed. So these tiny synthetic motors are actually faster than a cheetah when you account for their size. This is quite remarkable for an inanimate object powered purely by chemistry. To truly understand nanomotor behavior, we need to consider the physics of motion at the microscale. This regime is dominated by viscosity, not inertia. The Reynolds number characterizes the ratio of inertial to viscous forces. It's rho versus L divided by eta, where rho is fluid density, V is velocity, L is length scale, and eta is dynamic viscosity. Let's calculate. For water, density is 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter. Viscosity is 10 to the minus 3 Pascal seconds. With our 50 micrometers per second velocity and 2 micrometer size, we get Reynolds number equals 10 to the minus 4. A Reynolds number much less than 1 means viscous forces completely dominate over inertia. If a nanomotor stops producing thrust, it stops moving almost instantaneously within microseconds. Additionally, thermal fluctuations cause random Brownian motion. The diffusion coefficient for a 2 micrometer particle in water is about 0.2 square micrometers per second. This comes from the Stokes-Einstein relation, D equals kBt divided by 6 pi eta r, where kb is Boltzmann's constant, T is temperature, and r is particle radius. For the nanomotor's directed motion to be significant, its swimming speed must overcome this random thermal diffusion. The Pecklet number quantifies this ratio. The Pecklet number equals versus L divided by D. For our system, that's roughly 500, meaning directed motion strongly dominates over diffusion. The motor is truly swimming, not just randomly wandering. Now we arrive at the truly fascinating phenomenon. When you put millions of these nanomotors together in solution, they don't just move independently. They interact and organize into collective structures. Here's the key question that drives this field. How can collections of purely physical particles, with no intelligence or biological components, spontaneously organize into patterns that look remarkably alive? The first mechanism is chemical communication. Each motor modifies its local chemical environment by consuming fuel and producing waste. Neighboring motors sense and respond to these chemical gradients. Imagine many motors swimming in solution. Red lines represent chemical gradients connecting them. Each motor responds to the gradients created by others, leading to coupling of their motions. The second mechanism is hydrodynamic interactions. As each motor swims, it creates flow fields in the surrounding fluid. These flows extend over distances much larger than the motor itself and influence neighboring motors. The velocity field created by a swimming particle decays as 1 over r, where r is distance. This long-range interaction means motors can influence each other across tens of micrometers. The third mechanism is steric interactions. At high concentrations, motors physically collide and exclude volume. This crowding effect can drive phase separation and pattern formation. These three mechanisms combine to produce striking emergent behaviors. Let's examine the patterns that emerge. One of the most striking observations is dynamic clustering. Even without attractive forces, active motors spontaneously aggregate into dense clusters that continuously form, break apart, and reform. Here we see three distinct clusters of motors. These clusters are not static. They're dynamic structures constantly exchanging particles with their surroundings. The clustering arises from the interplay of self-propulsion and interactions. This phenomenon is called motility-induced phase separation, or MIPS. It's a non-equilibrium phase transition unique to active matter systems. Another remarkable pattern is collective motion. When motors are sufficiently concentrated, they can spontaneously align their swimming directions, creating large-scale coherent flows. Motors can form vortex patterns where they swim in circular trajectories around a common center. These vortices can be stable for many seconds, much longer than the persistence time of individual motor trajectories. Let's do a quantitative estimate. At what concentration do we expect collective behavior to emerge? For hydrodynamic interactions to become significant, motors need to be close enough that their flow fields overlap substantially. Let's estimate this critical density. The interaction length scale is roughly versus divided by gamma dot, where v is swimming speed, and gamma dot is the shear rate induced by a motor. The shear rate scales as v over L, about 25 per second for our typical motor. So the interaction length is roughly 2 micrometers, similar to the motor size it's. The critical number density is roughly 1 over L interaction cubed, which gives us about 10 to the 17 particles per cubic meter, or 10 to the 11 per cc. Converting to volume fraction, for 2 micrometer motors, this corresponds to about 0.1% volume fraction. Above this concentration, collective effects become dominant. Now I want to address a profound question. These swarms look alive. They move, cluster, organize, respond to their environment. But they're purely physical. What distinguishes them from truly living systems? Both living cells and nanomotors consume energy from their environment. Bacteria metabolize glucose. Nanomotors decompose hydrogen peroxide. Both convert chemical energy to motion. Both exhibit collective self-organization. Bacterial colonies form biofilms and fruiting bodies. Nanomotor swarms form clusters and vortices. Both show emergent patterns from local interactions. Both respond to chemical gradients in their environment. This is chemotaxis in bacteria and phoretic effects in nanomotors. Both show directed motion, up or down concentration gradients. But here's a crucial difference. Living systems have information processing capabilities. They have genetic memory, signaling networks, adaptation. Nanomotors have none of this. Their behavior is purely mechanistic. Living systems evolve and reproduce. Bacteria divide and pass genes to offspring. Nanomotors don't reproduce. They don't evolve. There's no heredity, no variation, no selection. Living cells maintain homeostasis and can repair damage. Nanomotors cannot. If you remove the fuel, they simply stop. If a motor is damaged, it stays damaged. There's no self-healing. The profound insight is that many behaviors we associate with life can emerge from purely physical processes. Self-organization, collective motion, pattern formation. These don't require biology. Let's quantify what makes these systems special. What energy scale characterizes active matter behavior? The active energy is roughly the propulsion force times the particle size. This is the energy injected per motor per persistence time. Using Stokes drag, the force is 6 pi eta-r versus plugging in our numbers, that's roughly 1 piconewton. So the active energy is about 2 times 10 to the minus 18 joules, or roughly 500 kBt, where kBt is thermal energy. 500 times thermal energy means these systems are strongly out of equilibrium. They're continuously consuming fuel and dissipating energy at rates far exceeding thermal fluctuations. You might ask, why study these systems? What are the practical applications of catalytic nanomotors? First, targeted drug delivery. Nanomotors could potentially navigate through bodily fluids to deliver drugs precisely to diseased tissues. Their self-propulsion could help them penetrate biological barriers. Second, environmental remediation. Motors could be designed to seek out and degrade pollutants. Their active motion enhances mixing and increases contact with contaminants. Third, microsurgery. Tiny motors could potentially perform mechanical tasks inside cells or tissues, like clearing blockages or manipulating organelles. Fourth, and perhaps most importantly, these are model systems for understanding active matter. They let us test theories about non-equilibrium collective behavior in controlled laboratory settings. Despite exciting progress, many challenges remain. Let me outline some key open questions. Current motors mostly use hydrogen peroxide fuel, which is toxic to biological systems. Developing biocompatible fuel systems is crucial for medical applications. Controlling motor behavior remains difficult. How do we program a swarm to perform specific tasks? How do we steer individual motors or coordinate collective actions? These motors are quite inefficient. They typically convert less than 1% of chemical energy into useful mechanical work. Improving efficiency is a major engineering challenge. Theoretically, predicting collective behavior remains difficult. We lack comprehensive models that capture all relevant interactions. This is an active area of research. Let me highlight some recent experimental breakthroughs that are pushing this field forward. Researchers have developed light-activated motors using photocatalytic materials like titanium dioxide. These can be switched on and off with light, providing external control. Enzyme-coated motors can use biological fuels like glucose or urea. This is a major step toward biocompatible systems that could operate in living tissues. Combining magnetic particles with catalytic motors allows guidance using external magnetic fields. This hybrid approach enables directed navigation of motor swarms. By carefully tuning motor shapes and surface chemistry, researchers can program motors to self-assemble into specific patterns like chains, sheets, or three-dimensional structures. Let me introduce the minimal theoretical model used to describe these systems, the Active Brownian Particle model. The position evolves as dr over dt equals versus 0 n hat plus square root of 2 dt times xi. Here versus 0 is swim speed, n hat is orientation direction, and xi represents thermal noise. The orientation evolves as dn hat over dt equals square root of 2 dr times xir, where dr is rotational diffusion and xir is rotational noise. Despite its simplicity, this model captures essential features: persistent motion, rotational diffusion, and the emergence of collective behavior at high densities. The persistence time is tau p equals 1 over dr. This is how long the motor swims in roughly the same direction before reorienting. The persistence length is Lp equals versus 0 tau p. This is the distance traveled before significant reorientation. For typical motors, this is tens of micrometers. It's instructive to compare catalytic nanomotors with biological microswimmers like bacteria. Here's a comparison. Sizes are similar, about 2 micrometers. Speeds are comparable, tens of micrometers per second. but efficiency and control differ dramatically. Bacteria are slightly more efficient and possess sophisticated chemotactic sensing that allows navigation toward nutrients. Nanomotors have no such capability. Their responses are purely passive. However, nanomotors offer advantages. We can chemically tune their properties, scale up production to trillions of particles, and design them for specific tasks that bacteria cannot perform. Looking forward, where is this field headed? What are the grand challenges for the next decade? A major goal is achieving programmable swarm behaviors. Can we design motors that collectively perform complex tasks, like assembling structures or performing distributed computation? Can we create adaptive systems that learn from their environment? Perhaps motors with memory elements that change behavior based on past encounters? Integrating biological and synthetic components could combine the efficiency and sensing of biology with the programmability and scalability of synthetic systems. Fundamentally, these systems help us understand the minimal requirements for lifelike behavior. By systematically adding complexity, we can identify which features are necessary for various living properties. Let me summarize the key concepts from this lecture. Catalytic nanomotors are synthetic particles that convert chemical fuel into directed motion through asymmetric catalytic reactions on their surfaces. At the microscale, where viscosity dominates, self-phoretic mechanisms driven by concentration gradients provide propulsion. When many motors are present, three types of interactions, chemical signaling, hydrodynamic coupling, and steric exclusion, lead to emergent collective behaviors. These collective patterns, including dynamic clustering, vortex formation, and coordinated motion, arise purely from physical principles without any biological complexity. The defining feature of active matter is continuous energy consumption at rates far exceeding thermal fluctuations, placing these systems far from thermodynamic equilibrium. The profound lesson is that many behaviors we associate with life can emerge from purely physical processes. Self-organization and collective motion don't require biology. Catalytic nanomotors represent a fascinating intersection of chemistry, physics, and materials science. They challenge our intuitions about what's possible with simple physical systems and blur the boundaries between living and non-living matter. As we develop better control and understanding, these systems may revolutionize fields from medicine to materials science, while simultaneously deepening our fundamental understanding of self-organization and collective behavior in nature.